Okay. Here's the char, guys. Let me see. We're just gonna dump it here.
Dirty.
Oh, you know what I feel like when you make them cupcakes or whatever? You're at the beach, you know, and you miss the sand. So, yeah, you can see. Pretty neat, yeah. Coconut husk, and it's really neat. I have this 16 horsepower chipper that the organization invested in, and so I drink a lot of coconuts. Do a lot of coconuts, and had all these coconuts running through the chipper. I was going to compost the and then I heard about the biochar, and I thought, wow, wouldn't it be neat if we biochar coconut husk? And so there it is.
So this,
Go ahead, Paul.
okay, this illustrates what is called the low-K solution. In Spanish, you know, like people say, well, what is the best thing to use? And he says low-K. I said, what do you mean? Low-Ki, whatever. You know what I mean? So like in these types of things, there's nothing magical about using coconut husk except it's available and it's the right cost and it's low-Ki. You know, it's the stuff that you have. And actually, that's the solution that we should be using everywhere. Is we use what's available and use it to the best ability that we have.
Absolutely.
Right.
So what are some other,
I need some more water, please.
what are some other things that get put in the car?
Not that much with this amount.
What is not that much?
Well, what is it, about 20%?
People have used, they've made biochar out of manure, out of bamboo. The Japanese are big at making biochar out of bamboo.
And you know
They
what?
have a bamboo culture.
You know what, folks? What you want to do when you do something like this is right afterwards, you do want to moisten it because it helps. It helps the microbes not to inhabit. The guy, Peter Hirst, was telling me it's important to do this, and then you mix it with compost. They'll move right in. So, Paul, 20%. Somebody asked the amount.
Yeah, you know, like actually start off using just 10 or 20% of this, like in compost mix or something like this, and then you'll get benefit from the compost and benefit from the carbon from the biochar. And you know, like when you're making even good compost, it's the more complex you are with your materials and the closer you are to natural areas, the better colonization you get with beneficial microorganisms. The best compost is right next at the edge of a forest because you get all of the beneficial organisms coming from undisturbed areas.
Going native.
You earned that.
Well, what's the difference between the char and the charcoal in the gray ash?
Well, you can use all of it, but the biochar is made more by a fixed process that isn't just open burning. Okay, if you allow open burning without starvation of the oxygen, you get most of the stuff will volatilize off, and it will be a somewhat different composition. We want to retain stuff. That's why we use pyrolysis, starving it somewhat of the oxygen so that it's incompletely burned, because that retains the maximum space in the product. And when they do this under controlled conditions, if you create a temperature of 300 to 400 degrees centigrade, without the oxygen, you get the maximum amount of surface area out of your charred material.
Everybody hear that?
No.
Okay, Paul.
Right. So you know, like in pyrolysis, you basically burn the material without oxygen. And you know, the way they used to produce charcoal is they would produce these big piles and then put dirt over them. Right. But you know, like if you're doing it like in a kiln, you can draw a vacuum and then maintain a temperature at a specific temperature. And those types of studies show that a temperature of 300 to 400 degrees centigrade without the oxygen produces the carbon with the maximum surface area so that it has the maximum ability to bioremediate the soil by having hangers and spaces and nooks and crannies for the beneficial organisms to proliferate.
Go Google fractal. Fractal geometry, you know.
Who's the guy with the solar thing here? Solar cooker.
Jerry.
How hot is that?
So,
Still under experimental phases right now, but what's happening is we're doing
Well, you know, if you chip something, it will retain the qualities of how you chip it. If you want a coarse biochar, you can use wood and have it a coarse chip, or you can pulverize it down depending on how you want to use the end product. One of the things is if it's too fine, you'll have a hard time applying it. So you want to have some granularity to it, but not so granular that it's not reacting because it's too much of a reef. You know what I mean? Because you want to have it be dispersible and manageable.
so in that spirit, guys, what we're looking to do is to create regional compost sites on the island. Because as you well know, regionally, we have those needs. And to have at that regional compost site, atom retort, to where you can produce 800 pounds of this per burn.
Wow.
So you could do a burn a day, in essence. Wattle, eucalyptus, I mean, all kinds of stuff you can use to burn it, you know? Yeah, Kelly.
How much of that do you need per acre?
Paul's saying about 10 to 20% biochar per application where you're applying, but you're applying it to the main benefits. It's not necessarily onto the land as opposed to compost, because then you have your maximum benefit from the microbes being able to assimilate it.
You put
with the
10% of that in with compost and then you spread the compost.
Then you spread that out.
So, Vincent, would you use it like a pit, like a 2.5 long and this diameter?
For inside the 30-gallon?
Yeah,
Yeah, the whole idea about what you're doing inside 30 gallon. Remember I told you guys fluffy but not stuffy? You want to make sure that you have air, the ability of air to move around inside the 30-gallon drum. So that's in the pyrolysis that Paul's talking about. That enables the gases to escape. And because it's not sealed at the bottom of this, you know, when it's sitting in the bottom, because there is a chance for the gases to escape. They come through and they help the flames, and with the ventilation you have a whole. I mean, you see how pretty efficient the burn all that wood came out to be.
This material is very high in potassium, so like if you have plants like pumpkins, they just love being on a burn pile or where you have ashes and stuff like this. So, you know, like crops like bananas, taro, the heavy potassium feeders, they'll really respond to this stuff, particularly in the acid soils, because this will line the soil.
So
You're talking about the other kind of ash as opposed
No,
to
no, this
char, or
ash.
you're talking about the char?
this is not what you want to use in your soil.
So that's usable as well, yeah, Vincent, is that what you're saying?
This is not usable compared to this. This is a whole different process.
But it has a lot of potassium.
Yeah, but it's a whole different process as far as availability, right, Paul?
Well, you know, like actually, say if I had the biochar is something done by a defined process that gets you like uniform results and stuff like this. The more ash type of thing, I would recycle that into the compost to get potassium and stuff like this. You don't throw anything away, you know, it's like if you're butchering something, you want to use every part of it.
Hey Ben, wouldn't one of the major proponents of this be the clean flame coming out the top and harvesting energy from that while you're making your char or whatever, using that? I would think that that's probably the most valuable
Right.
output.
Look online for an atom retort. RETORT, atom retort. Do some research.
ATOM or ATAM?
Yeah, right. ADAM. That guy's name.
Adam.
Retort.
He's doing this hooked up to an energy source to make energy?
Well, they have ways that they'll have the controlled combustion. Well, they'll harvest actually gas off of this and then use that as a natural gas. They can harvest liquids off of this depending on how they do the process, and have something that will work as a logical type of diesel that is not based on petroleum.
Right.
You know, so like the advantages of this type of thing have many different levels, and there's a lot of different plant sizes that could be used, and there's a lot of information that is coming internationally on this. So I would advise you to go your Google search and get into the videos, and you can learn a lot about how this will remediate greenhouse gas.
Help support getting this here on Maui, because I want to bring Peter Hirst here, the guy that's involved in making the report, and they do workshops on this to where we can actually have a community source of it. And it's a cottage industry for making charcoal for food. When you're passing that around, notice when you put it on your fingers, it stays there. Yeah, it's the same thing in the soil. It's the same thing in the soil. On your face.
That means you voted.
Okay, so let's go. Let's go to